Hello, I'm Bret Moss, and you're watching the defining moment for creating the culture of conscience. Our guest today is Reverend Dr. Jeff Utter. Reverend Utter is the pastor at Bixby Knolls Christian Church in Long Beach, California, and the Christian chaplain at the Veterans Administration Hospital in Westwood, California. Reverend Jeff Utter has many years' experience as a United Church of Christ minister and as a pastor with Disciples of Christ. He's been a missionary and served as a prison minister. Dr. Utter has a bachelor's degree in philosophy from Harvard College, a Master of Divinity degree from Harvard Divinity School, and a PhD from Columbia University. Jeff is originally from Massachusetts and has lived in Pasadena for the last 28 years. He's also been married for 28 years. He has 4 children and 3 grandchildren. Reverend Jeff Utter, welcome back to the Defining Moment. It's my pleasure to welcome you back to our studio today.
Thank you very much, Bret. I'm glad to be here.
Really happy you came. Our topic today is the religious implications of global climate change. And I'd like to begin by asking you to share a defining moment from your own life that has influenced you in becoming interested in this topic of global climate change.
I think the defining moment I would name is something that happened less than a year ago. I have always been very connected to the natural environment and concerned about it, and I have done work in my denomination to raise consciousness about our responsibility in relation to the environment. But last May or so, I received an email. It was part of an exchange of a group I belong to of spiritual teachers and leaders. And the writer of this email made us aware of a new book by Dr. James Lovelock, who is the British scientist who originally put forward the Gaia hypothesis.
Gaia.
Gaia.
How do you spell that?
G-A-I-A.
Okay.
That's an ancient Greek term for the earth. And according to this hypothesis of Lovelock, the whole earth, the earth itself, is in some sense one living organism. Lovelock gained a great deal of celebrity, notoriety for this hypothesis. It animated much of the environmental movement in the last 30 or 40 years. He wrote a book last year, or published a book, which was very, very gloomy and pessimistic in relation to the matter of climate change, of global warming. Lovelock said that this process of global warming has already progressed so far that the Earth, the planet that we know, is going to change irrevocably and become far less hospitable to human life, if indeed human life can continue on Earth at all. He said that our best chance is to create some small protected areas in the polar regions where we can have mating pairs, as he puts it, who can live together and maybe do a little farming and create children. Now that, when I read that, I became very scared, to tell you the truth. I was aware of the climate change issue. I had been concerned about it for several years. My wife and I had talked about putting in a solar array on our roof to reduce our contribution to the carbon going into the atmosphere.
Yes.
and so on. But I did not really feel the urgency of it. When I read my colleague's email, I did. And over the course of the months after that, I made up my mind that I was going to devote the next years of my life, possibly even until my death, just trying to raise consciousness in the churches and in the interfaith community about this matter of global warming. So that one email had a kind of very galvanizing effect on me.
Yeah.
I guess that would be a defining moment.
Yeah,
for
very
me.
clear. Okay, thank you. And so what do you believe to be the fundamental religious implications of the challenges facing humanity brought on by global climate change?
I don't think there are any particularly religious implications, except in the sense that most religions would say that it's a good thing that humanity exists. I think they would in any case. Certainly my own faith affirms that we read in the book of Genesis that God saw everything that he had made, including human beings, Adam and Eve, and behold, it was very good. Well, if something is very good, then you want to preserve it. You want to keep it.
And I believe in the same book of Genesis he talks about having dominion over the creation.
What does having dominion over the creation mean? If you interpret it primarily as responsibility for the creation, that's one thing. If you interpret it as meaning that human beings can do whatever they want in relation to the natural environment, that's an altogether different thing. But this goes beyond the matter of human responsibility. This goes to the question whether humanity can continue to exist at all on planet Earth. Now, I know there are many people, including probably some people watching this show, who will think, oh, there's another one of those Chicken Little people who running around catastrophizing and saying the sky is falling and so on. And I admit that I have to be careful about that. But I nevertheless believe that we're in an entirely new situation when the human presence on the planet is becoming so strong and is tending to overwhelm all other factors on the surface of planet Earth, that if we cannot realize that, the impact that we are having on the soil, on the oceans, on fresh water, and on the atmosphere, we're going to be in big trouble. And it's a good thing that humanity exists, and surely we want humanity to have a long future, I would think. And so I feel that religious people need to be in the forefront of becoming aware of the global warming problem and doing something about it.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Why do you believe global warming and the Kyoto Treaty have become so politicized as partisan issues here in America?
They've become politicized because we have developed a lifestyle based on the technology of carbon emissions. And anytime you threaten the lifestyle and the profits of the people who sell what makes the lifestyle possible, in this case oil and gas and so on, you're going to have controversy and a lot of political controversy. It's understandable that the oil companies, for example, would want to minimize the scientific reports about the effects of global warming. But it's not just the oil companies. We don't want to demonize any particular group. Mm-hmm. We've all become dependent on this lifestyle. I drove my automobile down here to come to this interview with you, and so by doing that, I contributed to the carbon dioxide going into the atmosphere. We have to find alternative fuels. There has to be a huge tax placed on gasoline, and who's going to like that? Who's going to want that? People want gasoline to become cheaper, not more expensive. But it has to become more expensive in order to persuade people to drive less or to switch to other types of locomotion.
Okay, very good. Thank you. How can you be certain that the global climate changes that we're observing around the world today are in fact caused by human activities and not by natural causes beyond our control?
Well, there are two answers to that. First of all, the scientific community has become virtually unanimous. Let's say 90%, 95% of scientists who are experts in this realm of inquiry are saying that human activity, they're saying two things. First of all, the Earth is warming up. Hardly anybody is disputing that. But secondly, that this is caused by human activity. Yes, there have been cycles in the history of the Earth, and they can see that when they take ice cores, for example, in terms of heating and cooling. But what we're in now is something that is exaggerated in relation to what has gone before, as far as the scientists can tell. Now, of course, it's possible that they're wrong. But even if they might be wrong, there's such a thing as hedging your bets. In other words, it's also called the precautionary principle in modern environmentalism. The question we need to ask is not what if they're wrong, but what if they're right? If they're right, then we had better do something to avoid the worst consequences of this before it's too late. So even though there's no absolute proof of this, and of the dire consequences that many scientists are predicting now if nothing is done, still, even if there's a strong chance that they might be right, shouldn't we take precautions?
Okay, very clear, thank you. What are some of the greatest contributors to CO2 emissions, known as greenhouse gases, which global warming activists warn could lead to catastrophic calamities that you've talked about?
I want to say at this point, Bret, that I am nowhere near being an expert on this or even an informed layman. I have set myself the task of finding a great deal more about this.
Okay.
But, we know some things. For example, just automobile exhaust, or the exhaust which is produced by factories and public utilities, airplanes. They estimate that there are now about 70 million tons of carbon dioxide being put into the Earth's atmosphere every day. It's having an effect, and we have to change it. Now, how much we have to change it and how specifically we're going to make the changes, those are all things that we have to talk about with one another. But I would think that anyone with a religious conscience, and certainly having a religious conscience, and this show has the word conscience in its title, does it not? Mm-hmm. Anyone with a conscience, anyone with a religious sensibility is going to have a feeling for the beauty of the natural world, the way in which the natural world has always sustained humanity, and also, I think, our responsibility as human beings to ourselves, to one another, to our children and grandchildren. And you mentioned my grandchildren, and I think, I have a responsibility to them to try to make some changes in this matter. And I would say, by the way, that this is probably the first time in human history when we have been confronted with the need to ask ourselves, what's going to happen to my grandchildren in regard to a problem that is going on right now? I mean, tell me, do you think that most people are concerned about their grandchildren, or do you think that most people think that they're just going to have to face the same things that we're facing now? There's not going to be any big changes.
No, I think the people are concerned.
You do?
Yeah.
About their grandchildren?
Yes.
And great-grandchildren?
Specifically about their own grandchildren, yes. Okay. Especially.
But you know, you can't really be concerned about your own grandchildren unless you're also concerned about other people's grandchildren, because we're all in this together, are we not?
Yes.
It's not as if your family is going to survive and mine isn't, or vice versa.
It's a global issue.
Yeah, it's a global issue.
And it's going to require global actors from all over the world coming together.
And that's also the exciting thing about it, because this may mean that we can actually develop a sense of brotherhood and sisterhood among all human beings, because now we're confronted by this common threat.
Yes.
And so when I think about that, I get very excited.
Yeah, and the fact that we now have the technology of communications to facilitate that kind of cooperation and collaboration.
Yes.
It's interesting that these two phenomena are coincide.
Yes, yes. It's very interesting. It occurred to me the other day to say, you know, the global warming issue is the real crux of globalization, what we do about that. I mean, if we can solve that, then we truly will be one global community.
One global family, you could say.
Yes, one global family.
Okay, great. Assuming that in fact the threat presented by global warming represents a clear and present danger to humanity, what are the most significant ways we can work together to reduce CO2 emissions?
Well, I would say the first thing we need to do, and on this now I am counting on the fact that you and I believe that religion is ultimately the most important dimension of human life. Mm. The first thing we need to do is go to God in prayer about it, and ask for guidance, ask for clarity, ask for strength. And the second thing we then need to do is to start changing our lifestyle. As my wife and I did, we have now put in the solar on our roof.
Lead by example.
Yeah, yes. And the next car we buy will be a hybrid, so that it will get about twice as many miles per gallon as the ones we're driving now. And we're also being much more complete and thorough about recycling now than we ever were before. And I'm reevaluating whether we can take the overseas trips that we have been thinking about taking in the future, because that puts so much, those airplanes put so much carbon into the atmosphere. So it's that kind of thing. I mean, I think that we may be entering a period of human history when we have to learn to get along with less materially than we have been the past couple of 100 years. But we can do that, and the quality of our lives may actually become a lot better as a result.
Right. Okay, good. Thank you. Ethanol is an alternative fuel produced with the use of corn and other methods, which can be produced right here in the United States. It burns cleaner than gasoline does. How do you respond to those experts who warn that if ethanol were to ever become a widespread alternative fuel to gasoline, it could have severe economic implications on the price of corn, which could impact the poor people living here in America and throughout Latin America, who really depend on corn as an everyday staple for their existence? Some people foresee that if the price of corn were to skyrocket, it could lead to uprisings in Latin America for the people who really rely on corn as a staple. What do you say to those people?
You know, I wouldn't know what to say to them. I am just at the beginning of
You're
studying
a novice in this,
all of the
as we all are.
complexities and ramifications of this. They may well be right, but what this points up is just how very complex the issue is, and how important it is for us to be in dialogue with one another about all of these issues, and to develop more and more of a global consciousness.
Yeah.
The President mentioned ethanol in his State of the Union address, and already there are people who are raising, in relation to what he said, the very questions that you just raised with me.
Mm-hmm. Okay, very clear. Thank you. So it's not completely a partisan issue. There is some coming together of on both sides of the aisle.
I think so. Yes, I think it's beginning.
Yeah.
And I believe we are going to solve this. I think there will be disruption. I think there may be some lives lost. I think we may have to go through a period in our human history when we live at a lower material level than we had become accustomed to. So what?
Okay.
If you believe in God, and if you believe in God's promises for humanity, we're going to come through in one way or the other. God did not create us in vain. He didn't.
And he also didn't create us just so that we could annihilate ourselves.
Right, exactly.
Okay. Experts agree that on a worldwide scale, about 25% of all CO2 emissions, which contaminate the Earth's atmosphere, come from forest fires. Forest fires. What can men and women of conscience do who are concerned about global climate change to reduce that?
Well, I think we can, one thing we can do in the United States is to provide more money to the Department of the Interior, the people who manage our forests, so that we have more rangers out there and that we have more resources available to stop forest fires when they start.
And how about on a global level?
Well, one of the things that's happening in Brazil, as you know, is that the Amazon rainforest is being chopped down to make way for farms and so on. We need, the United States and other countries need to put a lot of pressure on Brazil. I don't mean in a heavy-handed way, but in the sense of, sitting down with the Brazilians and talking to them about the importance for the global ecology of the Amazon rainforest, and that you just they're not only burning it down, chopping it down, they're also burning the trees, and of course that contributes to the problem you spoke about. And of course the Brazilians are going to say, well, this is our country, we can do what we want. None of us can say that anymore. I mean, this is the hugeness of the issue we face.
Okay, very clear. Thanks. What message would you like to leave with our viewers who may be inclined to take action to work toward this, but they're still, kind of uncertain about what to do or where to start?
I would say, again, one of the great creations of contemporary humanity is the Internet. And if people do not know how to browse the web themselves, or surf the web, or whatever it's called, surely they have a friend who can. And
or a child.
Yes, their son or their daughter or grandson or granddaughter can do it and get some initial information, some initial tips, and so on. I have set myself the task of creating an interfaith movement in the Los Angeles area to raise consciousness about the global warming issue. And so if there is anyone out there who is, first of all, of religious faith, and secondly, is open to working with those of other faiths on this particular issue, I'd be glad to hear from them.
Okay, great. Well, Jeff, it's really been a pleasure for me to have you here for this interview, and I think it's been very informative. Certainly for me it has. So I just want to appreciate you taking the time to be here today and share what you've shared with us.
Well, thank you very much for asking me, and I hope nobody feels that I'm speaking about things that I don't know anything about. I mean, it's true that I don't know much about this.
Well, it's hard to be an expert in this area, but you
Right.
certainly have seen some red flags and you're concerned.
Yes, yes.
And you're taking action as opposed to just...
Yes, and on the basis of my faith, and I share faith with you,
Yeah.
religious faith.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you being our guest today.
You're very welcome.
You've been watching The Defining Moment for Creating the Culture of Conscience. You can find us on the internet at www.definingmoment.tv. Thanks for watching and have a great day.